Have you ever wondered who ruled the world before global superpowers emerged? Enter the Dutch East India Company, or as it's known in Dutch, the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, often abbreviated to VOC. This isn't just some dusty relic from the annals of history. No, my friends, this was an entity that packed a serious punch. Picture this. It's the year 1602. The world as we know it today is a mere glimmer in time's eye. In the bustling city of Amsterdam, a group of audacious merchants convenes. Their objective? To monopolize the spice trade in the East Indies. But this wasn't going to be just another business enterprise. They had a vision to create something the world had never seen before, and that's exactly what they did. The Dutch East India Company emerged as the world's first publicly traded company. Yes, you heard that right. The concept of a publicly traded company, a cornerstone of our modern economy, was born out of this audacious venture. And it wasn't just their business structure that was revolutionary. The VOC was a company that had its own army and navy, a company that could wage wars, negotiate treaties, and even mint its own currency. Talk about a corporate overachiever. Now you might be thinking, all this for some spices? But let me tell you, back in the day, spices were a big deal. They weren't just flavor enhancers for your evening stew. Spices represented wealth, power, and influence. They were the oil of the 17th century, driving economies, shaping politics, and even sparking wars. So, we see the birth of a company that would go on to change the world, all in the pursuit of spices. Imagine controlling the world's most coveted commodities of your time. That's exactly the position the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, found itself in during the zenith of its power. The VOC was not just a company, it was a colossal machine of commerce that had its gears grinding in the lucrative spice trade. The VOC was built on the back of spices, particularly pepper, cloves, and nutmeg. These were the black gold of the 17th century, and the VOC had a firm grip on their trade. The company established an impressive monopoly, controlling a staggering 85% of the world's spice trade at its peak. Their success was largely due to their massive fleet of ships. With over 1,600 vessels under its command, the VOC had the largest fleet of its time. These were not just any ships, they were floating fortresses, armed to the teeth and ready to protect the VOC's precious cargo from pirates and rivals. In addition to its formidable fleet, the VOC's success in the spice trade was also due to its establishment of crucial trade routes. The company charted the waters from the Cape of Good Hope to the Spice Islands, creating a network of trade routes that were the arteries of their spice monopoly. These routes allowed the VOC to transport spices from the east to the west, swiftly and efficiently. The profits from this spice monopoly were staggering. The wealth flowed into the Netherlands like a river of gold, transforming the small nation into one of the wealthiest and most powerful in the world. The riches brought by the spice trade funded extravagant art, architecture, and scientific advancements, ushering in the Dutch Golden Age. The VOC didn't just dominate the spice trade, it practically owned it. This monopoly was the cornerstone of the company's power and influence, setting the stage for its rise as the world's first multinational corporation. The VOC was not just a company, it was an empire in its own right, built on the fragrant allure of spices. What happens when a company becomes more powerful than nations? Let's talk about the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC as it was known. The VOC was no ordinary business, it was a behemoth, a colossal entity that wielded a kind of power and influence that was unprecedented. Imagine a corporation today with the power to wage war. Sounds surreal, right? But that's exactly what the VOC could do. It had its own private army, stronger than those of many countries at the time. It didn't just trade in spices and textiles, it traded in power and domination. Let's take a trip back to the 17th century. The VOC was not just negotiating trade deals, it was negotiating treaties. It was a key player in the global political arena. Its influence extended far beyond the boardroom and the marketplace. The VOC was shaping the world, creating ripples that would be felt for centuries. One of the most striking examples of the VOC's power was the conquest of Jakarta. This was not a military campaign led by a nation, but by a company. The VOC seized control, and Jakarta, a bustling city in the Indonesian archipelago, was transformed into Batavia, the headquarters of the VOC's operations in Asia. The VOC didn't just control trade routes, it controlled territories. It didn't just have employees, it had citizens. Its colonies were not just centers of commerce, they were new societies, mini-worlds governed by the laws of profit and power. The VOC was not a bystander in history, it was a maker of history. It was a force that shaped economies, changed cultures, and redefined power. It was a company that became a country in all but name. So remember, when we talk about the VOC, we're not just talking about a company, we're talking about a global power, a force that changed the world in ways few could have imagined. The VOC was not just a company, it was a global power. Every empire has its fall, and the VOC was no exception. The Dutch East India Company, once a beacon of commercial power and prosperity, began to falter under the weight of its own success. The company had spread its wings far and wide, but the challenges it faced were just as vast. Economic difficulties were the first to strike. The VOC's business model, which relied heavily on the spice trade, was threatened by shifts in the global market. As the demand for spices dwindled, so too did the VOC's profits. The company found itself with warehouses full of goods that no one wanted to buy. The once lucrative spice trade had lost its luster, and the VOC was left scrambling to find new sources of income. But economic challenges weren't the only issue. The VOC was also plagued by internal corruption. Officials within the company were using their positions for personal gain, siphoning off profits and manipulating trade deals. This corruption was like a rot at the heart of the VOC, eating away at its foundations. And then there was the competition. Other European powers, including the British and the French, were eager to get a slice of the lucrative Asian trade. They launched their own trading companies, and the VOC found itself in a fierce battle for control of the trade routes. The competition was fierce, and the VOC was not always victorious. By the late 18th century, the VOC was in serious trouble. It was heavily in debt and unable to pay its creditors. In 1799, the company was officially declared bankrupt. The once mighty VOC, the first multinational corporation in the world, had fallen. The final blow came in the year 1800, when the Dutch government officially dissolved the VOC. The company's assets were seized, its operations shut down, and its charter revoked. The VOC's reign had come to an end. The mighty VOC had fallen, but its impact was far from over. Despite its downfall, the VOC left an indelible mark on the world. Its legacy can still be seen today in the global trade networks it helped to establish and the cultural exchanges it facilitated. But that, dear listeners, is a story for another time. How does a company from the 17th century still influence us today? This question may seem perplexing, but the answer lies in the legacy of the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, as it's known in the Netherlands. The VOC was a pioneer in many ways. It was one of the very first companies to issue shares of stock to the public, laying the foundation for modern capitalism. It's not an overstatement to claim that every stock exchange today, from Wall Street to the Tokyo Stock Exchange, owes a debt to the VOC. This trading of shares allowed the VOC to raise capital, spread risk, and fostered a sense of collective ownership. It was a revolutionary concept that has shaped the economic landscape we navigate today. Beyond capitalism, the VOC also left an undeniable impact on global trade. It established trading posts and colonies from Cape of Good Hope to the Spice Islands, creating a network of trade routes that connected continents. The VOC's widespread trading network was, in many ways, a precursor to the globalized economy we are part of today. Now let's bring it closer to home. In the Netherlands, the influence of the VOC is still evident. The wealth amassed by the VOC helped to finance the Dutch Golden Age, a period of unprecedented cultural, scientific, and artistic growth. The grand canals of Amsterdam, the masterpieces of Rembrandt, and the scientific discoveries of the time were all, in part, funded by the VOC's spice trade. Moreover, the VOC's influence extends to the cultural and social fabric of Dutch society. The multiculturalism you see in the Netherlands today is a testament to the VOC's extensive trade connections and its role in shaping Dutch identity. So, when you sip your morning coffee, consider this. the beans might have traveled a global trade route that the VOC helped to forge. When you check your stocks, remember the VOC, which pioneered the concept of a public company. The VOC may be history, but its footprints are still visible in our world today. What can we learn from a company that once ruled the world? The tale of the Dutch East India Company, or VOC, is a fascinating case study that offers a wealth of lessons for the modern business world. The VOC's story is a testament to the power of ambition and adaptability, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the importance of ethical business practices and sustainability. The VOC was a pioneer in many ways. It was the first multinational corporation, and it set the bar for global trade. However, its rise to power was not without its challenges. The company had to navigate the complex dynamics of international politics, deal with fierce competition, and manage a vast and diverse workforce. This adaptability is a trait that's just as valuable in today's fast-paced business environment. The ability to pivot in response to changing market conditions, to continually innovate and stay ahead of the competition, is a key factor in business success. But the VOC's story also holds a warning. The company's downfall was largely due to its unsustainable practices and lack of ethics. It exploited resources and people for short-term gain, leading to social unrest and economic instability. This disregard for sustainability and ethics eventually led to the company's demise. In the modern business world, sustainability and ethics are more important than ever. Consumers are increasingly conscious of the social and environmental impacts of the products they buy. Companies that fail to take these factors into account risk damaging their reputation and losing customers. The VOC's rise and fall is a clear illustration of the importance of balancing ambition with responsibility. It shows that power and success can be fleeting, and that sustainable, ethical practices are crucial for long-term success. So what can we learn from the VOC? We learn that adaptability, innovation, and ambition are vital for business success. But we also learn that these must be balanced with ethical practices and a commitment to sustainability. The VOC's story is a timeless tale of ambition, power, and the importance of ethical business practices. So, what's the final takeaway from the VOC's epic saga? Let's revisit the chapters of this grand narrative. We journeyed through the origins of the Dutch East India Company, an entity birthed by the quest for spice and exploration. We witnessed its rise to monopoly, transforming from a mere trading entity to a colossal power, dictating terms on the global stage. The VOC didn't just trade in spice, it traded in influence, extending its reach far beyond the shores of its homeland. It was a company that knew no bounds. It commanded its own military, issued its own currency, and even established its own colonies. The VOC was, in many ways, a state within a state. It was a force that redefined the very concept of a corporation. Yet, with power came the inevitable downfall. An entity as large as the VOC was not immune to the pitfalls of overspending, corruption, and mismanagement. Its fall from grace was as dramatic as its rise. It served as a stark reminder that unchecked power and greed can lead to self-destruction. But the VOC's story didn't end with its dissolution. Its legacy continues to shape the modern world. Today, we still feel the echoes of its influence, from the trading routes it established to the global presence of Dutch culture. Its impact can be seen in the way we conduct business, in our understanding of globalization, and in the multicultural fabric of societies around the globe. The VOC's journey provides us with invaluable lessons. It urges us to question the ethics of business, the repercussions of unchecked power, and the importance of sustainable practices. It reminds us that corporations, like individuals, have a responsibility towards society. The VOC's saga is a testament to the fact that commercial success and social responsibility are not mutually exclusive. The Dutch East India Company, a tale from the past that still resonates in the present. A company that once ruled the world, now a lesson for the future,